This episode of the Creative Power Hour, it's me and photographer Jason Myers. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Power Hour here on Marcus Whitney's video and audio universe. I'm your host, Marcus Whitney, and today having a conversation with the incredible, the illustrious photographer Jason Myers, who basically has co-produced this show because he taught me how to do everything that I'm doing. Like this backdrop, he helped me buy it, setting up the cameras, all this other stuff. The dude is incredible, and we're actually neighbors. We have office space right next to each other.
Yep.
And interestingly, and he also took all of the shots, or at least half the shots that are on my website right now. So basically, I'm trying to say you should hire him. But what's really incredible, I think, is we've known each other for 3 years now, maybe something like that. I mean, it feels like
maybe more than that.
Yeah.
I moved here in July of 14, so it wasn't
okay.
All right. Yeah, so going on maybe four and a half years.
Four and a half years. Okay. And we've seen each other at least every week, right? Basically.
Yeah.
But so much has happened in your career that I didn't know about. And obviously, it's just like you've been doing the work over and over and over again, right? You talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
And then when you started telling me some of the people that you shot, I was like, well, shit, man, I need to sit down and talk to you and like get the backstory,
including Marcus Whitney. Including Marcus Whitney.
Yeah, bottom of the barrel, folks.
Yeah.
Like once you started telling me some of the people that you shot, I was like, we need to sit down and talk and catch up, right? So this show is, it's definitely entrepreneur friendly, but I've really sort of pivoted towards, creative power, because I just feel like just the business side, in addition to being boring, isn't really where we're going, right? You know what I'm saying? It's about how you can lean into your sort of, your unique skills, your unique view on the world, and, you get to live that out, through your craft. That is also your business, right? Sort of every day. So anyway, I've talked a lot, and now why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about who you are and how you got here.
I just liked all those accolades. I want to let you do that all over again.
I'm for hire.
It feels good. It feels I need a little first of the year, get my whole ego pumped up. But yeah, and not to. Well, first off, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun, and it's amazing how your lives intersect, and you don't realize when it's going to happen. We've known each other for 4 years now, and we share a suite, and everybody's going at their own pace, and it took you wanting to do something more creative to reach out and bring other creatives and entrepreneurs together to pull us back together. Right. So it's and a lot of times you don't, and going in what you were saying a minute ago, you don't know. I didn't know I could be a creative entrepreneur growing up.
Yeah.
I was an athlete. I always felt like, sports was going to be my way and career. And then you get to college and you go, well, this is a whole different level of expectation here.
Yeah.
And then I did the corporate America thing for 13 years, and I was in healthcare and I was in management. And then 2010, December 21st of 2010, I quit my job. I had no plan, had a mortgage, had zero idea of what I was going to do. I just knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing.
Right.
And fortunately, over the next few months, the camera became the thing that was the stopgap for me. I was very networked in South Florida. I'd gone through leadership in Palm Beach County. I was on several boards of directors.
Okay. All right.
I was on a couple of sports boards of directors, tourism boards. And so I was networked, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And 2010, not a great time in the economy still. It was, all the real jobs that I was assuming would start coming along as soon as I let the world know I was available to be hired weren't coming. Yeah. And photography became that stopgap. And I was like, well, I'll just do this until I get the real job.
Yep.
And when I thought about it for a minute and realized I enjoyed doing it, I felt like I had a little bit of talent in doing it. I just had to figure out how to monetize it. I had to figure out how to pay the bills? Is it something that can be done? And I looked around, and like most people, you don't know about an industry until you're in it, and it's an educational aspect that a lot of even my current clients and the expectations, it's like, well, what's your rate, or what can you do this for? Well, there's a lot more factors that go into it. It's just like, Marcus, I want you to help me start a company.
Right.
What's your rate?
Right.
Like, for what? Wait, for what? What are we going to do?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So it's kind of the same thing, and there's so many different paths in photography.
I mean, I asked you a question about this recently, and I think it's both going airplane mode here. But look, I think it's not that easy to understand, right? You know what I mean? Like one of the things I didn't understand, and I don't want to quick segue here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I didn't understand, and I think has always been a little bit unique, because I'm not sure how much it applies to other forms of creative contracting, is the copyright aspect of what a photographer does, right? I'm not even sure this is true in the videography world, right? Like I feel like it's something specific to photography. If there are analogies, like, educate me. I don't know. And just for like, the point that I'm trying to get at here is, like, if you're working with a real photographer, right? Like someone who
well, every photographer is a real photographer.
Well, okay. If you're working with someone, I mean, I've worked with. Look, if you're working with a photographer who really views what they do as, obviously they're professional, but I think also that they're an artist. Am I saying it correctly here? Like,
yeah,
we just take over. What is the right way to talk about this? Because it's pretty mystical, man. To be honest,
it is a blurry world now, because we've gotten everything's instant, everything's digital, everything is visual, right? So the first thing, I will say thank you to the technological gurus over the last several many years that helped create an online office front in the form of the internet and website and digital technology with cameras and software and all these things, because it gave me a quicker entry point into an industry than what it would have been 20 years ago.
Right.
And, when you had to shoot on film, you had to be really good. And I remember when I was in college and I would shoot things, it was, you were hoping for one, maybe two great images out of maybe one or two frames you would keep out of a roll.
Yeah.
Unless you were meticulous and waited 6 months in the Alps for that one day of the weather to clear. So
and you wouldn't know until you got the
film
working.
You wouldn't know until you got it back.
Yeah.
And you hope it didn't get blown out or there was a light leak or something.
Right.
So, but at that time, before everybody had a phone in their pocket, it was a tangible, deliverable commodity, right? So if someone wanted to use my image of you, or if you wanted, I'd have to get reprints made. I'm the only one that holds that digital negative, right?
Right.
And over the course of the last however many years, our whole whether it comes to how musicians.
This is the theme of this show, by the way.
Is it?
1000%. Like all the upside that you started with about the website, right? All the upside, but it's also disruptive and is forcing change, right?
It's forced change. It's put photographers who are very talented photographers who weren't able to adapt out of business. It gave young photographers who would have had no business getting into an industry at 17 years old, shooting movie posters. And I'm speaking of a peer named Joey Lawrence, whatever he goes by now. He was 17 when he shot the Twilight poster.
Okay. Wow.
So now he's going all over the world shooting, amazing campaigns and doing all these things. So technology and talent and an audience helped thrust certain people into careers that wouldn't have existed 20 years ago, because there were only so many industry people. And if you wanted to get such and such to shoot your campaign, you had to deal with their ego, you had to deal with their rate, you had to deal with, the demands on set, the way that they talk to people. Now you've got options, and there's a billion options. And part of my goal and a daily goal was trying to figure out how to break through that noise.
Yeah.
Because as talented as I may be, there are 100 people within a 100-mile radius more talented.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to break through the noise. And in doing that, you also have to, we've devolved a little bit from copyright, but
Yeah,
I'll get back to it.
I know. We'll get there.
But you also have to differentiate yourself from your competition, but you also have to understand how to generate revenue and to stay relevant financially, because as the deliverables become more and more and more and more, and people saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see more. Can't wait to see more." This is where use and deliverables and copyright does come into play, because the old school way would be, hey, Jason, we're going to shoot, I need a headshot. Cool, we're going to go shoot a headshot. Okay, with that comes, you get one finished image, and if you want reprints or anything else, it would be additional dollars, because I have to retouch it, I have to print it, I have to do all these other things. Now, it's everybody gets 1,000 images, and it waters down a lot of times the quality of what gets disseminated out into the public eye.
Yep, I agree with that.
Every day I'm like, oh, can you please take that down? Please don't put that filter on my photo.
Yeah.
Oh, can you take that down, because I haven't retouched that yet. That was a proof.
Got it.
That I sent,
Got
and
it.
the next thing you know, they just screen grab it and it's on their Instagram because of the impulse of getting something up and fresh and new.
Okay. All right.
So when it comes to being a stickler for those things, copyright is with all creators. Anyone that creates anything has the ability to generate a copyright, right? If I push a button, there's the whole ASPCA or PETA or somebody was suing somebody about a monkey taking a picture with someone's camera and saying that the monkey owned that copyright. I mean, it went all the way up into the courts.
Wow.
Because
that's the state of our copyright laws. That's the way it's set up.
Right, but ultimately they have to knowingly know what they're doing.
Right.
So the monkey cannot own the copyright to this famous selfie. But for me, I have had numerous occasions where I've had to send a letter from my attorney to major global organizations who have gone to my website, found something that was newsworthy, blogs. They just screenshot it, put it on their website, and they think that's okay.
Right.
And for any bloggers out there or anybody that thinks that the internet, if it's on the internet, it's fair use, which is a term that gets thrown around a lot. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, it's not. So save yourself the heartache, the financial consequences that come with using someone's work without their permission or compensation to that creator, because in this industry of instant, and in the industry of, or in this world that we're in with more deliverables, the more I give, it cheapens the value of it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, just to that last point, I mean, there are, for people who don't know, there are websites and repositories out there that are royalty free.
Absolutely.
That you can't, literally it says take this and use it.
Yeah. There are certain
with
outlets.
different terms, either give me attribution or don't.
Yes.
But I guess the point is
do the homework.
Do the homework and do it the right way, as opposed to just Google.
I
And
like
snatch
that.
Google search.
Right?
Right.
Or you see it every day on Instagram. I shot the CMT Artist of the Year awards a couple months ago, and it within minutes of it going, some of these images going live, I'm seeing fake accounts, parody accounts, fan sites, just completely filtering, and there's a lot that goes into how the time it takes to set up, the time it takes to light it properly, getting the artist's approval, and knowing that they are trusting that I'm making them or I'm shooting them in a flattering way. And then when someone puts a filter on it because they feel like they have to improve upon what someone's already done, is kind of like adding, it's truly like adding salt to a meal right in front of the chef before you've even tasted it.
Yeah.
You think you know better. My friend Jeremy Deputat, who's a photographer up in Detroit and LA, and he's out on the road with it. I mean, Eminem and 50 Cent and like hip hop culture and commercial photographer. He has a brand called Trust the Shooter, and it's you're hiring me, trust me. And when I present something to you, it's not because I'm trying to take advantage of you, especially in how things are used or the limitations of it. Because if something's going to be used more often, then it becomes more valuable. Something's going to be used on a bigger scene, it's more valuable. And if I just hand over everything for a handful of dollars, well, then I've devalued what
your downstream potential is.
Right. And it's my retirement. Ultimately, my archive is my retirement. Nashville independently is a challenging market because of the music industry, because the record labels and the
requirements on rights.
The requirements on rights. They want to own everything for typically not very much.
Yeah.
And it's a cycle that started before I moved here. And unfortunately, too many people have said yes and continue to say yes to the cycle.
I would imagine that the market pressure sort of pushes there, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the market pressure because of
that and the internet and the phones and like
you just take it or leave it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's leverage, right?
It's leverage. They have the leverage.
Right.
A lot of times they have no interest in negotiating or even discussing an amicable way to do it, which in my opinion would be just define the use of the rights, define the usage, define the duration, but let me retain the copyright, because what you're offering me to pay me to give away something that might have potential value down the road, or like you said, that downstream value, I'm just giving it away.
Yeah.
Which makes me as a creator not want to do that kind of work anymore.
Right.
Because there's 100 people in line who are willing to do it for exposure or for nothing, and are willing to give that copyright away. So, but yeah, copyright is a
okay. So that helped me to understand. That helped me to understand.
Yeah. Copyright's important because it is our it's our legacy. I get that. Are there ways to be
so I guess that's what I mean when I say the difference between a real photographer and I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I'm saying the ones who I've worked with who generally have done higher quality work, like the work that I have reused more and have been more proud of. I think there's a correlation there, right? Have generally been much more stringent about the rights.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't understand the backstory on it, but that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and I think for any photographers who happen to listen to this, and if you feel like you're a young, and this happens to me, I get into a little bit of trouble sometimes because I'm pretty forward and outspoken about protecting yourself as a creator.
Yeah, no, you think you should.
And treating it like a business and protecting yourself, because no one else is going to say, hey, thanks for giving me too much.
Right. Right.
I got you.
No, that's never
thanks for
happen.
giving me too much.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the challenge becomes when young photographers or new photographers don't understand the value of what they have. They want to over-deliver because they feel like it will give them some kind of they're afraid to say no.
Yep.
They don't know what the value of what they're giving away is.
Yep.
And they don't know how to they truly just don't understand the value of what they're doing. They don't know what their expenses are. They don't know what they just don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're, like I was saying, if you're a photographer, understand copyright. Best business practices for photographers: buy it, read it, digest it, and if you have any questions, just search copyright.
So, Jason, grab your bandana real quick, because this sort of pushes me to what I feel like is the next real part of the conversation, right? Which is like the market is the market, right? And we can argue ideologically about if this is appropriate, right? Like what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do. But technology doesn't really care much. The internet doesn't really care much, right? And it keeps shifting leverage to different forms of value. Let's say, right? Different forms of value. So like one of the things I like that you're doing, so this is like, Jason's brand here, right? And you did like this great holiday gift, set where it was like, the igloo and like a whole camp thing, right?
Laurel Higman, my assistant, and
make this look good here, came
up with a plan. We did a personal lifestyle shoot, and then built a special promo around it. and sent it to 50 ad agencies.
Yeah.
And in the event, or in the expectation to, one, just let people know who we are.
Yeah.
Remind them that I'm capable of thinking outside the box.
Yep.
And giving them something that might stay on their desk for more than a week.
Well, to me, like, it spoke to the fact that you understand you have to differentiate and you have to build brand. And like, so this gets to the part where what I want to talk about, because I felt like the quality of the photographs was one thing, but knowing that I was in the same company with some of the people who you have shot, and I'm sure you have different terms about who you can say you've shot and who you can't say, but like just say for the purpose of the show, like list the people
besides Marcus Whitney.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, bottom of the barrel when you hear the list.
Well, I've been very blessed. My first advertising campaign, and how I got started, I built my portfolio based on just going out and shooting people that I knew.
Yeah.
Shooting,
which is how you should start.
Which is
right?
how you should start. Reaching out to people I wanted to photograph versus people asking me to do things as a favor in return for exposure. Or I reached out to artists and celebrities and athletes, and fortunately, I would position myself in a way that got me access to shoot former teammates of mine who were recently retiring from the NFL. That makes me feel a little bit old, but so I would shoot familiar faces. So some of the first people I shot for my own portfolio were guys I played with. Were Fred Taylor. My first advertising job was Mariano Rivera for JBL headphones. The next week, which is funny because the disparity in budgets.
That's legendary, right?
That was pretty cool.
That's legendary.
That was my first advertising campaign.
Yeah.
And just having that, and that was the last spring training of his career. He retired that next season. So having the ability to do that while he's in Yankee pinstripes was ridiculous. Was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I laugh at the amount of the personalities that I've photographed, from Barack Obama on the campaign trail to Muhammad Ali a few months before he passed away for Sports Illustrated, Serena Williams, any and all golfers, including Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy and Roy Bose. I mean, so the sweet spot.
Ric Flair. See who else he shot, right? You know what I'm saying? And so like and then also the fact that like you're building a brand. Like I even feel like you're building a style of shooting, right? Like the lighting thing that you do that most people would think is Photoshop. Yeah. Like you're developing your own style around it. So there's a branding aspect of what you're doing that I think is going to give you serious, longevity and bring people to you and give you leverage in a world where leverage is moving away just because you're a good photographer.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's important. And that's, I go to 2 or 3 portfolio reviews a year, mostly in New York. But they have them all over the country, New York, LA, Chicago. And you sit down and you're judged by the strength of your portfolio. I have 2 books, and you may know who you're going to sit down with. It's going to be, you might have the editor from Rolling Stone, and then you might have an art buyer who is the person who generally pulls you into projects for ad agencies, and you don't know who their clients are. It might be a healthcare brand or a sporting goods brand or a makeup brand. You don't know who their clients are, so you're trying to show a body of work, and if one thing I've learned is they want to see a consistent feel of who you are as a photographer, so they know that who they're going to get when they roll the dice and they hire you, because in the editorial world, magazines, newspapers, they don't send an editor down to check on you. Typically, they're like, hey, I got to shoot this Friday. It's with a celebrity, or it's with a normal person, or it's of a fish tacos at Nathan Followell's house. I've done that before. And we have to trust that you're going to get the shots that we need. Yeah. Or they're going to say, well, who are we going to trust to hire for this $200,000 or $1 million advertising campaign? We have to know that this body of work is what we're going to get when we are when the money is on the line. So, but when I go there, the biggest theme is you have to have good work. It has to feel the same, even if it's cross genre.
Yep.
Whether it's, I call it my music culture and my portraits, and everything has to feel like it's a cohesive mix. If it's food and then babies and then weddings and then couples and then I'm a commercial photographer, you're not going to win that way.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
You might as well have 5 individual websites because none of that mixes together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of this is standing out and just reminding people that I'm trying to think a different way because a lot of the times they're looking, the ad agencies especially, they want people that are going to stand out and people are going to think different ways. And a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I went to my first portfolio review and there was a guy there, and I forget his last name. His name was Jordan, or his first name was Jordan, but he couldn't make it to the review. So in his stead was a cardboard cutout of himself holding his iPad and a little voice recorder and a notebook. He got a job because everyone thought that was so brilliant.
Right.
That they're like, oh, this guy cares.
Yeah.
He's gonna, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I heard someone say, I love your work. I'd love to hire you for this project that we've got coming up.
That's right.
And so, he rolled the dice, rolled the dice and won. So that one. And then you just hope you win the next one. And you hope you win more than you lose.
The next one.
Yeah.
So how long have you been, keeping and growing your hustle now?
Well, January of 2011, I would say it was the summer-ish, August of 2011 when I really made the commitment to go all in. I was kind of in the job hunt, like trying to figure out. I didn't think photography could be a full-time job. And then when I started doing it, started to have other actual offers come in, pretty cool offers. I had to make the decision. Oh well, I'm giving up on this, and I didn't want people to think, oh, he started this to do this. It's almost like you always use the professional golfer analogy, and I don't know why. It's just maybe because I shoot a lot of golf, and they practice every day. Every day. They don't, great songwriters write every day. They're they don't miss writes. They don't skip days. They are doing it every day.
Yep.
And I felt like if I were to do the photography thing part-time, then it would be a hobby.
Right.
I wouldn't give it it would be a side hustle.
Right.
Side income, but I truly would. I'd be like a lot of photographers out there. And there's nothing knocking a side hustle, but charging $50 for a photo session or $100 for a photo session, and it takes an hour of your time, and you think you're going to make it that way, you're going to pay all your bills. You're just not, because you can only win so much on volume.
That's right.
Right. Your time is valuable. Yeah. So it was a time versus return, and I picked the photography and hired a consultant. Amanda Sosa Stone was my first photo consultant. She challenged me and pushed me, and I still remember our first conversation when I sent her my body of work, which was a giant turd of a selection because it was what I'd shot and it's what I knew. Yeah. And we both were like, I have no idea what to do with this.
Yeah.
Like she had no idea. Like, I don't know do you want to work for a newspaper and I'm like, I have no idea. That's why I hired you. What do you think I'd be good at? She's like, well, I like some of your portraits. I'm like, well, I like portraits. And I like the interaction and the time that I get to spend with my portrait subjects because I get to learn a little bit about them. I feel like, and this is the difference between shooting live events, live music, sports, is if I'm shooting your portrait, it's on purpose. Sports, live action, done it. Music, concerts, done it. But there could be 50 other photographers.
Right.
right next to you,
Yeah.
and what makes you different.
Yeah.
And truly, what
that totally makes sense. Yeah.
You know, so for me, being a portrait photographer, it's like I own you for these like 12 seconds. You know, sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah, and I mean, as having been your subject before, I mean, it definitely feels like that's the experience, right? You know what I mean? You kind of have to give, like, if you're the subject, you have to give yourself to you.
Yeah, you got to trust me.
To kind of go through that process.
Yeah, and I think it should be a collaboration. It should always be a collaboration. And I know it's not easy for some subjects to be on the other side of the camera. The more I've done it, the more I really, you know, and I tell people, it's like, we are who we are. This is who we are. My job is not to change your appearance. My job is to capture who you are and enhance who you are through my talents.
Yep.
And that's my goal. And every job's different. I might shoot album art for a country superstar one day, and I might shoot headshots the next, and I might shoot an editorial like I'm doing on Friday, and then I might have an ad campaign next week.
That's right.
And that's what I love about what I get to do also is there's no day is the same. And I do like the uncertainty of it, and then sometimes the uncertainty of it is stressful.
Yeah,
you know, just like any freelancer.
Yeah, right.
If you can't handle that, you know, then don't.
Then don't.
There was something I was listening to something last night, and I wrote this down, and it's so funny because it never made sense to me. It's like Alaskan last people in Alaska or something, and somebody said, you know, instead of good things come to those who wait, which is which is we always hear that because there's truth in that.
Yeah.
It says good things come to those who are willing to work hard for them, and I think if nothing else, like that resonated with me last night, and I'm like, yeah, I could sit around and wait for it, but I can't. You know, there's a select few people in the world that can just sit back and wait for people to call them, right? Who are they? You know, they're the cream of the Warren Buffett takes phone calls.
It's a very short list, and they got there by working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They got there by working their ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about 2019. Like, what's exciting for you this year?
You know, everything. You know, 2018 was a strange year. It had its ups and it's life. You know, it's every year is going to have its challenges. It's unexpected bumps in the road. It's unexpected victories. Just you know, over this past break, I just had a chance to just decompress and think about some personal goals and professional goals for the year. And you know, I made a list. I'm going to go through them. There's some projects that I'd like to do, you know, whether it be changing kind of the model of how I do some things as a photographer, marketing in a different way. Just, you know,
I think there's so much opportunity for you there. It wasn't until like I really saw what you were doing, and then I started looking at other photographers. And look, I'm not in the ad agency space per se, so I don't have you know, an inside view to it, but my sense is there's not enough differentiation. There's not enough people like really taking to heart what they could do and how important it is, and more sort of being romantic about the past and like mad about it, as opposed to like saying, well, man, you know, that's gone, but now there's this huge opportunity for me to position this way and get, you know, all the work, right?
I've been very blessed that I've always, you know, I feel like, and too, as part of my job is if I can educate my clients and find an added value to them for them in what I do, or a way that my costs are minimized by the added value of a relationship or connection or what. That's always been something that's been important to me, and I've been able to do that in a number of areas to where I've always been kind of good at finding money. You know, when editorial slows down, well, I've got to try to pick up some here. You know, whereas I think a lot of folks in the consumer space, and I would say the consumer, like the wedding, portrait, babies, families, that kind of thing, because there are more baby photos. I mean, everybody has babies. You know, or a lot of people have babies.
A lot of people.
And every year they have birthdays.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of events that happen, and you can be an event photographer. And I know people who are very, very, very successful event photographers shooting 200 or 300 days a year. That's not for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather shoot. I was looking. I had 50 jobs last year. Jobs might have been some of them multiple days, but let's say I shot 60 days last year. My busiest year, I shot 67 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that was getting to be enough.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Because it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're having to think about your marketing and your invoicing and your branding and your growth and and just some self time, for me 2 to 3 or 4 days, 4 days a week, I'd be kind of every week
maxed out
for a year. I'd be miserable.
I
would personally.
Yeah.
So I have to
That's
figure
super
out,
important to know, right?
Yeah, I have to figure out. I have to figure out how to balance that. And with that, I have a great assistant, and she helps keep me straight on a lot of different things and in areas that not having her, I definitely see the value in having an ally and some support. So hopefully this year we will shoot more days and I say more days, but also at a higher rate. I don't,
right.
shooting 20 more days and averaging half doesn't do you any good. Now you're just spinning your wheels.
That's
so
right.
then it becomes an expensive hobby if you're not making profit. So I've always looked at it as my own business from the very beginning. Whereas I think a lot of photographers don't understand it is a business. They are the CEO, the CFO, the COO of their own independent business, and if they're not managing it well and taking good business, and they're just going to go out of business. They're the same ones that will cry to me and tell me, "Oh man, I can't make any money doing this." It's like, well, because you're charging $50.
Right.
How much did your camera cost you?
Right. The math doesn't work, man.
Yeah, it's the math.
The math doesn't work.
Yeah. So you have to either focus on being different, or you always have to focus on standing out, breaking through the noise.
Yeah.
Same thing on the radio, and obviously we're here in Nashville, so a lot of stuff revolves around music. If you're not breaking through the noise, if it sounds like everything else, then how different are you? Mm-hmm. Same thing with album art. It's your face on a thing. Okay, I mean, we can do that if you're going to pay me to do it. But
right.
Is it going to get me all excited to do it? Probably not. I'd rather someone that comes to me and says, "Let's push envelopes here and try something different," because that's going to get the attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think people just don't. They haven't experienced it directly, and so they just don't know. And I think even a lot of the high budget commercial stuff isn't done in the way that you, or I think many of your contemporaries do it. I got lucky to be able to shoot with you, and man, just like anybody in any particular aspect of mastery, I shot with you years back.
Yeah.
This was different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a different animal now. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you're doing now is...
We all evolve.
We all evolve. We all get better. And what you're doing right now is, like, no joke.
Yeah.
And, now I'm sort of spoiled, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, shit, man. I mean, I can have, like, a lot of, like, regular photos, and that's totally cool. But I also now know, like, I can represent myself in like... in like a superhero way, kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I work with someone who has that vision and those skills,
it's all based on need. And we talked about when we were going to shooting for you, like what were the goals? What were the goals that you had for yourself? And immediately it made me think of some lighting techniques and some ideas that gave that just presented a passionate, cool, hip entrepreneur in a very cool way. It wasn't, that was my goal. It wasn't to just, have a standard suit and tie, headshot, clean, and we can do that. If that's what the need is, if that's the goal, then I'm your guy. I'm happy to do that. I do a lot of that. But to push it and push the envelope a little bit, and to have that ability and that flexibility on your part. Man, I mean, in the time we had, I got 3 images of Marcus on my website right now. So
it was nuts. It was nuts. All right, man. Well, look, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We're gonna do a little giveaway, right? Like we got a T-shirt and this bandana. So why don't we do this, right? When we put this live, it'll be on YouTube, and it'll also be an audio version of the podcast. But we'll do this for the YouTube, especially since everything you do is visual.
Yeah.
we'll give away how many? Just this one?
Well, yeah.
So is it one?
I've got more unless you have a plan. I mean,
I mean, look, here's the plan. If you're in the comments and you throw up the hands up emoji, the hands up emoji, yeah, man, then you are eligible to win, and Jason and I will find somebody and pick you to get this T-shirt. And if you're in Nashville, you can come get it. We don't have to mail it to you or something that. You can come see us.
Yeah, made by Friendly Arctic here in Nashville.
Nice.
So, yeah,
I got a ton of stuff done by Friendly Arctic. Yeah. So much love to them.
Yeah.
Dude. Well, thanks for doing the show. Thanks for helping making the show possible.
Yeah. Thanks for having me,
my man.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Until the next time, we'll see you. Peace.
Cheesy thumbs up.